Greg, how you doing?
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Awesome, awesome. So how's your week been?
Busy,
All right.
busy, busy. Finally, is the other part to go with that.
Good. So busy signing listings,
Yeah,
busy working with
this
buyers.
this week, this week, busy making money. And that's good because most of the rest of the year has been busy not making money.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I have a client that I've been running around with. I helped her buy a townhouse a couple of years ago, and she
Uh-huh.
decided, hey, it's time to move already. So I'm trying to get her out of there and at least even, and get her
Yeah.
moved closer to where her family lives. So we, after several searches that started in about a 20 by 30 mile block, narrowed it down to a community. So hallelujah. And there is a
Hmm.
target that we are after right now. And I told her as we started getting closer, I was like, we need to think about getting your house on the market. And she's like, no, we don't need to do that yet. And I'm like, all right, you're the boss. And we find the unit. And I said, okay, so now we need to make an offer. And what we have to do, because your house isn't on the market and we don't have any other contracts on it yet, is we're going to make this offer with a 90-day contingency. And they're going to say no. And so I said, here's your alternative. Your alternative is we go borrow the money real quick from a
Hmm.
guy that'll lend to anybody, and
Hmm.
you buy the house. And I said, and we change our price then because we look like a cash offer when we do that. So
Hmm.
we're going to say we're going to go 335 with a 90-day contingency or 320 cash. Do
Hmm.
it quick right now. You guys can move to Montana where you want to go.
Right.
And they said no to both, and said, here's our cash answer. And it was in the middle. And I was like, you didn't get that choice. That wasn't on the menu.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so they said, okay, go away, get your house listed. If you get a contract, call us back. Um, and so yesterday I was working with the stager. Today I'm getting a photographer scheduled so that we can get going on selling her place, and hopefully that all works out and it times out right, and we'll
Yeah.
see. Uh,
Gotcha. Do you
so,
normally
so
do
that
buyer
was good.
consultations? Is
What's
that
that?
part of your, do you normally sit down and do a professional buyer consultation, take them through stages, or what's your process?
Yes,
You
yes.
do. Yeah. I know a lot of people tend to have that in their pocket, right? They've got a practice buyer consultation and they've got their book, they've got their folder. But 9 times out of 10, the first time they're meeting the client is at a house, or even if they know the client, say it's from your sphere. Hey, I want to go look at a house. Okay, they go meet them. You go, and then you're starting the ball down the road before you had that conversation, and then you kind of piecemeal the conversation every time you're showing them or on the phone, and you really never sat down with a one-time consultation with them. And
Right.
I always find in my experience, the ones that I'm always having trouble with are the ones I didn't do a consultation with. The ones
Yeah.
that, so
So I know this person I know very well, and so
yeah, yeah,
it's been easier to deal with her. I just know her personality,
yeah, yeah,
and so like, oh, okay, I don't have to argue with her. I can just say all right,
yeah.
and now I know that when I have to get it, I go around this way, and I come in
Right,
this
right,
direction, and there we
right.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now, I will say that I can't do it anymore, so my process is going to have to change. Is somebody called me cold, I would get every once in a while internet leads off of, I don't know, some
hmm,
listing that I've got, and
right.
we start talking, and they figure out that maybe this is other house is a better house, and so we go meet there. I would go meet them first and show them a
Yes,
house.
yeah,
And
I
then
agree.
after that, I would say, and here's what happens. I love that. That's my favorite script. And here's what
Yeah,
happens next.
right.
And next is we sit down, we go through this whole process and we talk about everything. We get you
Yeah,
qualified and we do all of that good stuff. With clients that I know really well, that might not happen.
yeah,
But it's that I'm yeah, generally that I'm comfortable that they actually know.
right.
We've danced that dance before. They
Yeah,
remember. And then my script for that is, you remember, like the last time that we did this, this is how this happens.
yeah, yeah,
And they'll say, okay.
yeah.
So yeah.
Obviously, if you get one of those young first-time home buyers, they're wanting you to sit down with them and explain what the heck's about to happen. They do. If you get somebody who's bought a house a couple of times in the past, they're really not that interested in it. They just want to, hey, let's go look at houses, right?
Right.
Um,
And
I've got a
the
little,
answer to them is no. The first time that I work with them, the answer to them
yeah,
is no. We need to sit down and do this.
yeah,
And I promise if we slow down a little bit here, we're going to go fast
yeah.
right after that. No.
I think one of the positive changes that happened with the lawsuit and not necessarily changes in our industry, because I know in your area we've been, there's no changes. I think the wholesale change happened in California. It didn't happen here, right? So California was doing things wonky, and it caused the rest of the country to have to react to this, all the changes with the lawsuit, right? But one of the positive things is that we want to make sure that we're really clearly explaining to the buyer that that they're going to have to pay our compensation if the seller is not paying our compensation, right? That has to be a clear conversation with them, right? It was like that before anyway, but it's not like it changed. We all know that. We've been in the industry long enough, but that's a clear change. Um,
There were a lot
have
of people
you?
here though would run around and tell them that they were free. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was that's one of the things that really got us in trouble is we are never free.
Well, quite frankly, I mean, I was almost trained that way. In the
Yeah.
beginning part of my career is like when I would get somebody to sign a buyer agreement, and they would go, "What's this?" I'm like, "Oh, this just means that I'm going to represent you, and you don't have to worry. The seller's going to pay my compensation, right?" It's ostensibly we weren't saying but we're basically saying it, right? So now we've got that shift. So I think the good thing is we get to slow down and have that conversation with them, and have you, you know, because we've been doing this a long time, have you tackled that conversation in a way that you feel comfortable with it?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I've been doing that a long time.
Okay. All right.
And in fact, part of my pitch was, and some people will tell you that this is free. It's really not. It's in the
Yeah.
price, and
Yeah.
because it always has been. And
It
so I
always
said
has
it's
been in the
covered. You
price.
don't have
Yeah.
any out of pocket expense, and it'll show
Right.
up in your mortgage. If they press deeper on it, usually they
Right.
didn't, because they weren't paying anything out of pocket. They just said okay,
Right.
and went merrily on their way, and never thought that hey, I could negotiate that. I had a couple people that were a little bit savvy, and I guess it's probably when Redfin showed up and started saying that they would kick back to the buyer.
Yes.
I'm like, damn it, I watched that happen in commercial real estate too. I did commercial work for several
Yeah.
years, 7 years. As a tenant rep for national retailers, and I was watching that market. And on the big commercial real estate side, we did stores. I was doing like little 2,500 foot stores.
Hmm.
And I loved anybody that had a portfolio. That was my gig, is I would help them with strategic planning and real estate planning. And I wanted 100 deals a year because they were only 2,500 feet. And
Hmm.
then I had some of my coworkers that were doing, I don't know, Home Depots, right? It's a big box. It's a big deal
Right.
all the
Right.
time.
Right.
And anyway, the really big deals, office, industrial, big industrial park kind of things, um, they would they would cap commissions. They would share with it. They would, we called it revenue sharing, and it was like it was basically kicking back to the
Yes.
principal
Right.
in the deal, right? And some people started to try to bring that into the retail real estate world. I said, don't you dare! Damn, you'll
Yeah.
screw up the entire market.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
started doing that stuff, and then I started watching Redfin do it, and I'm like, God blast it! They're
Yeah.
gonna start the beginning of the here we got to cut commissions to be competitive, and
It is pretty prevalent here, by the way. In our market, there's
uh
a lot of buyers. Probably half the buyers are when we have the conversation about compensation, they go, okay, well, why don't you just agree to take 2%, and then we can take the other 1% off the sale of the house, or I get the other 1% back cash, right? So there's a lot
yeah,
of those
no, I don't do that.
conversations. Yeah. So, so
That's long been my script to that. When somebody asks me
yeah,
to cut my commission, list side
right.
by side doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
like, no, this is, my
yeah,
price is this. And I just wait and see, because I don't know, 95% of the time, that's as hard as they negotiate. And they just
yeah,
say, okay, let's go.
yeah. I
And then
would
if we
say
need
that
more, we have more conversation.
as the market shifts back toward more sales, more buyers in the market, which it eventually will. I don't know. Maybe next year, hopefully that next year, right? I think we've got to be prepared for more of these conversations. Like more and more people are going to become savvy about negotiating on the buyer side, how their commission works. I think just got to be prepared. So now you could do one or
Yeah.
two things. You could just hold the line and say, I just don't do that. Go work with somebody else. Or two, you got to figure out how to have that conversation. So
Yeah,
just
I
as
never tell them to
just
go work
yeah,
with somebody else. I just say
yeah,
no and
yeah,
watch what
yeah,
happens. And
yeah,
man, there's so many times that's all the script you need for
yeah,
that is just
yeah,
no,
yeah. No, this is
no,
my
no. My
fee.
price is 3%.
Yeah, you're going to get a professional for this fee, and this is what you're going to get, right?
Yeah,
So, okay, good. Hey, I did want to make sure that you saw what Zillow did because you need to be aware of this. Zillow is
they're
they're going
trying
to
to
try to
buy.
put they're going to try to stop Redfin and Compass from doing what they're currently doing. I think Redfin, if you list a house at Redfin, I think for the first, I don't know, 2 weeks, whatever the number is, um, the house is just advertised in Redfin's platform, and then they put on MLS.
Right.
So Compass is going to do the same thing. So they're going to have an initial launch within their own platform, and then they're going to launch it to MLS, right? Which, quite frankly, I don't know how they're going to get around some of the MLSs allowing that to happen, but I guess they figured out a loophole. Zillow is basically going to say if you do that, if you put it in your own platform, then come back, put it in MLS, we're not gonna advertise it on our platform. So
And I don't know how they think they're going to track that. I was
well,
like,
because the Redfin and the Compass
oh, it's going
platforms,
on there. It's going out to everybody. They can match the database. All right. Yeah. No. No. I
it's
got
forward
that.
facing. Yeah, it's going
Yep.
out to buyers, right? Because they're
Mhm.
doing this not only just to sell internally, that you're trying to capture buyers as leads, right? That
And
is Zillow's
I
bread
don't
and
know.
butter,
Quite
right?
honestly, as MLS rule stands right now, I think that Zillow's probably right. That's a clear cooperation violation. I mean, we do the same thing. We've got a giant database that we call private collection that is running through 14 KW offices because they all have the same owner.
Sure.
And so now we've listed $1 billion worth of off-market property in the last year and a
Yeah.
half
Yeah.
through that system.
Right. But it's not outward facing. That
But
is internal. That's just another agent.
it is only our
Yeah.
clients and the
Yeah.
rest
I
of the
think
world
that's
can't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. So Zillow is saying, hey, look, if you do that, you basically because Zillow's selling buyer leads, right?
Right.
If you're going to try to steal buyer leads, then you're cutting into our business. You can't advertise on our platform. So I think it's going to put the brakes on it. Obviously, what Zillow doesn't want have happen is Keller Williams follow suit, right? And then Keller Williams, because Gary has talked about in the past having our own internal MLS and how that would work, right?
Right.
But I think that brakes probably got put on that for, because that would be,
I think we have a relationship now with the guys
yeah,
that like write the MLS platforms too. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then actually the MLS here in Georgia, our big one that we use, is cracking down on, on off-market listings. And they have actually, I think what they're doing is they're going to each market center, making an example out of one person in each market center and fining them $1,500 because we just had a fine here for one individual person that had put stuff out on Facebook and they were monitoring her on Facebook and they saw
wow.
that she had an off-market listing on Facebook and they called her out on it. So and she got fined $1,500 and then our broker looked at it and they negotiated back and forth and no, you got to pay the fine. She did not, she had a signed listing agreement. Our contract with FMLS says if you have a signed listing agreement within 24 hours, it has to be registered in our system. Now they have given leeway when we have some signed listing agreements and they're not registered. And they're kind of like not really policing that, but now they're kind of make examples out of people that if you have a signed listing
Damn.
agreement, yeah.
Yeah. That
So
that would make me think twice about what I was doing.
yeah, so just be careful monitoring that about what's happening. So and like I said, I think they're not going to do it. Like they can't possibly do it wholesale, monitor every freaking agent out there in all platforms. But I think what they're
No.
doing is they're trying to make an
But
example because now obviously everybody in our market center knows this happened to this lady and nobody wants it to happen to them, so we're all following the rules. So it actually worked, right? So
yeah.
yeah, it
Yep.
worked. All right.
Yep.
So let's talk about this. So did you work off a calendar? You work off a 401 and you work off a GPS. Is that all correct from the notes that I've read? Is that something you generally do, or is it something that was like suggested and we're not?
GPS and calendar,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
But and quite honestly, I still suck at calendars.
Okay.
And
All right.
so there are many times where the whatever event doesn't make it to the calendar. There are many times where it
Yeah.
makes it to the calendar and I don't look at the calendar.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
so the little like alarm things that go off 10 minutes before. If it's really important, I've started setting alarms when I put it in there. I'll set an alarm an hour before,
Right.
because chances are I'm not going to look at it until that thing
Yeah.
goes off.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right.
but
So
yeah,
here's one of the things I want to give you some very practical for this last 15 minutes of our call. I want
okay,
to give you just like, yeah, this is productivity, practical stuff, right? I want to make sure we work on this. It's kind of like a first step that I always do with folks when I'm coaching them. Even my own team, I'm like, I think this is vitally important. And I'm coming from the experience that I probably went in my career, um, my real estate career, my first year not working off a calendar, right? And it was probably because I just took things as they came because, quite frankly, I wasn't that busy. So, it's just like, what am I doing today? I'm doing this, and I got one listing, so I wasn't very calendar driven. However, you've been doing this a long time. You're going to get busy, like you're just saying. So the busyness of the day. Once I drove off a calendar, it changed my life when I started getting busy, especially when coaching, leading a team, and then being in production, being very involved in the office, on the ALC, teaching, all the stuff that you do, basically. We're one and the
yep,
same. Living off a calendar changed my life. Now, I want to help you practically build a calendar and help you try to build a habit for a calendar. And one of the best things you could do is work off of Chrome platform and Gmail and um,
I
and
do.
working
My whole business is
on
running
a
in
calendar.
Google.
Awesome. Perfect. That's our first step, right? Now, this is John's method of building a calendar. I know some other people do it. It's very different than the way most other people build calendar, but I think this is what worked for me. And I suspect everybody that I tell this to, it kind of like click with it and they go, I can do that because I didn't like the other way that I was taught to do calendar, right? So it may work for you. If not, we'll figure out another method. But here's the first thing that
Okay.
I like to do is just at least once a week I sit down and I look at next week's calendar, right? And what's on your calendar, I know right now, because if you're using a Gmail calendar, is all the stuff that's been plugged into your calendar, like team meeting, or you've got some Zoom call with somebody, or I'm going to go ahead and set our particular date for every Wednesday at this time. So it's in perpetuity, it's going to be
Right.
on your calendar, right? Stuff like that. That's there because somebody else put it there, right? That's on your calendar. And then everything else might be just white space on your calendar. The next thing I want you to put on your calendar, Greg, is your life. Right. And when I say is, are you a gym guy? Are you a tennis guy? Are you a pickleball guy? Like what do you do extracurricular?
Um, Hiking, cycling.
Okay.
Um,
And do you generally cycle like on a routine? Like I get on my bike 3 times a week or something like
I've
that.
been walking more than cycling, but
Okay.
I'll trade back and forth between the two.
Yeah.
Cycling more,
Yeah.
so I do higher altitude hikes from time to time.
Okay.
This August, I'm supposed to go to Colorado
Okay.
and hike a bunch of 14ers. I'll cycle because Dallas is flat. It's a lot flatter than Atlanta,
Yeah.
and so if you the cycling muscles, they're the same ones that you use to go up when you're hiking,
Sure.
and so it's
Okay.
a good cross training.
Yeah, this is an easy question for me to answer because I've got 2 teenagers at home. So also got a granddaughter too from 30-year-old daughter. So that's another story.
Nice.
So I've got 2 teenagers at home. So my calendar, if you look at my calendar right now,
All their events. Yeah.
it's all like
And mine
dropping
would have
them
been
off, picking them up,
softball
taking
and
them
Boy
here.
Scouts.
Yeah, yeah. It's all there, right? So when I build my calendar for the beginning of the week, what happens is the stuff that's on my calendar that's there because somebody put it on there, meetings that I've accepted, Zoom calls that I've accepted, coaching calls that are on there. They're static. The next thing I'll do is really I'll sit down with my wife at the some point in the week. I'm like, what's going on next week? Pickups, drop offs, volleyball, my picking up my son from the gym and all whatever it is. Like, and that's the next thing goes on my calendar, and I color code it. I color code that in gold because that's, my family time, right? I have other clients that say I go to the gym every morning and I'm from 7 to 9, I'm at the gym every morning. Okay, that goes on your calendar, right? If you got a weekly meeting, lunch with your wife, and every Thursday I eat lunch with my wife, whatever it is, that goes on your calendar. All those that's the second thing that goes on your calendar because everybody's been told from the beginning, their first thing in this freaking career is that what goes on your calendar next is lead gen, right? And then what everybody does is go 9 to 12 every day of the week for the rest of my life. I'm going to lead gen, and it never happens, right? It just doesn't happen, right? The
I
next
quit
thing
doing
that,
that.
yeah, good.
Because
I'm
I
glad.
did. I
Yeah,
took bold 18 times, right? So I was a
yeah.
bold junkie, and that was the bold calendar. And yeah,
It doesn't work.
I just quit because there's too much other chaos that
Right,
happens in there.
right,
And so
right.
yeah.
So your family goes, it's the stuff that got put in your calendar goes first. ALC meeting, team meeting, whatever it is that's is on there that you normally do during the week is going first. The next thing is going is your life, right? And you're gonna plug that in there. And the third thing that's gonna go in there is, believe it or not, is not lead gen. Again, look, it's just I'm putting it almost to the last party. The next thing would go in there, servicing current clients, right? And so now this is the part that always, I think, the most crucial part that goes in your calendar for most people, because servicing current clients always interferes with everything else,
Hmm.
right? It always interferes with everything else. But if I could take a time block and put it on my day, now it depends on how busy you are, right? And you're heading to a busy season, you might want to time block every day a couple of hours servicing current clients every day of the week because you're getting busy. Now, on the weeks that time block pops up and you don't have anything to do to service current clients because you're just light that week, guess what? That time block turns into lead gen time, right? And when I say lead gen, it's a very loose term because I don't even like that term, but I'm just going to use it for now, right? Then the last thing, almost the last thing that goes in your calendar is lead gen time. Now, what I do like to see in a lot of people's calendars, a lot of white space, right? What they taught you in bold was from 8 to 9, from 9 to 10, from 10 to 11, from 12 to 1, from like, I like to see a lot of white space in your calendar, right? Because the white space is where you can shift and move stuff, just like as you use Google Calendar, you just take
Okay.
it, drag it, right? Love Google Calendar for that reason, right? Now you can drag it around. Now, on lead gen time, this is really basic. I'm sorry, Greg, if this is too basic, but I want to start with the basics because this is our first call, just
That's
to be
fine.
really
Yeah.
basic. Okay. On lead gen time, what you're going to now do is, because we're pros and we're not like just cold calling lead gen. Our lead gen time is very specific of like on Monday from, for example, 1 to 3, calling my database to invite them to this event. Calling, and then Tuesday, calling past clients to ask them how things are going. Wednesday, sending CMAs to all my past clients from last year. Like, so whatever it is, you're going to put the specific thing that you're doing to try to generate more business. You're going to actually put that in the calendar as the specific task as well,
Okay.
right? If your calendar is not task oriented, like show up to at the office at 1 o'clock on Friday to teach how to have a great open house because Greg volunteered to do that from 1 to 3. Your ass is going to be at the office because some people are counting on you at 1 o'clock from 1 to 3 because you're going to teach something very specific and you're going to be prepared to do it when you get there, right? The mindset change would be that if you put from 1 to 3 on Friday, I have to call these people and say this, or I have to put this package together and mail this out, whatever the thing is. I think your mindset kind of changes. Like, if you miss that, then you're going to have to find another spot to do that on. If it just says call people 1 to 3, that's
And it doesn't
easily just,
happen. Yep.
that's not going to happen, right? All right. Just like if you had put 1 to 3, be in the office just in case somebody wants to talk to me about open houses. You may or may not show up to that.
Yep.
Right. So what I want you to do as a best practice for, I'm going to give you a little homework for next week, is I want you to work on your calendar, get a little bit more robust. color code it, all that kind of stuff. Build out just as a practice the calendar for next week, right? And then what I'll hold you accountable to is that when we start looking at your calendar, we're looking at your 4-in-1, and your 4-in-1, I don't want to overcomplicate 4-in-1. 4-in-1, here's today's 4-in-1 for me. That's fine.
Okay.
It's 4-in-1 is just a fancy word for checklist, right?
Yep.
Right. It's just your checklist of things you've got to do. So, what we'll do, at least initially, is I'm going to hold you to a calendar. And then if you miss the thing on the calendar, ask you why and what got in the way, and how do we adjust to that, right? So that's going to be kind of initial place we're going to go over the next couple of weeks. And then
Okay.
what I really want to do is also during that time frame is help you build a calendar that's going to be productive to help you make money as well, right? Right. Here's the thing. Next week, when you share your calendar with me, I want to see a lot of white space on it. Because I like white space in your
Well, it's got that right now.
Because
So
the
where
white
my
space,
calendar is right now, if we pulled it up and looked at it, there's a lot of white space. The meetings that you're talking about that
yeah,
are scheduled and recurring, they're
yeah,
in there. And
all right,
because I do block that time out to make sure that I don't
okay,
step on it.
yeah,
And I'm good at doing that anyway, because
all right,
sometimes I'll commit to you that we can meet here, and then I'll go to put that in the calendar and go, damn, I really should have looked at the calendar first because there's already something there. Then I'm calling you back
yeah,
saying, hey, can we move over here?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and so that's there. If I have scheduled client meetings, especially if they involve somebody else, those usually hit the calendar. Yesterday, I worked with the stager to try to get this listing ready to go, and so that hit my calendar.
right,
I
right,
was very wrong about the length of time that was going to take, but at least the initial starting block was there.
yeah,
Um, so that's kind of where it is. It's the stuff that I have to be to. I'm getting better at getting that on the calendar.
okay.
Okay, this is my choice of what I want to do with my time. That is still very loose.
Yeah, yeah. Get that. That's important because if you have a look, if you have a plan to be out of the office at 4 o'clock every day, I mean, get that on build your calendar around that. That's okay.
Yep.
Like, because that's a guilt-free calendar. It's like, this is my plan. It's not like I just snuck out because I just got burnt out and I'm done. No, frick, that was my plan to get out of here at 4 o'clock, right?
So
That kind of,
the one other thing that's very interesting in my life and that'll show up a fair bit on calendars is airplane flights. My wife lives in Salt Lake City most of the time.
okay.
I live in
All right.
Dallas most of the time, and we bounce back and forth to the other city. I actually licensed in Utah as a broker. I tried to start an expansion team up there. I found out how freaking hard that was. Watch my business. The business in both cities was going nowhere because I was so distracted with what I was
Yeah.
doing, and I finally
Yeah.
said I got to pull back and focus on Dallas because that's where I got people. I
Hmm.
had no database in Salt Lake City. That was really
Yeah.
hard. I was like, damn, this
Yeah.
is what it was like to start.
Right. There you go. Yeah. All right. I do want to, we're going to go over just a few minutes if you're okay with that. You
Yeah.
have a hard stop. Okay. So the next thing I want to make sure that we work on, is that you had mentioned last week about having a solid assistant,
Yeah.
right? This is about having a solid assistant. I want to give you a little hack, another piece of homework. So calendar is one piece of your homework. The next piece of your homework is I want you to do this. I want you to look at teams that are in other, not in your market centers, because you don't want to do this to your market center people, but teams outside your market center, um, primarily that are not with KW. And I want you to make a phone call and get the assistant on the line. And I want you to set a coffee meeting with an assistant from a big team or somebody. You could be an agent that you worked with in the past, and you know that they have a good assistant. And I want you to set a coffee meeting or a meeting with them to have this conversation. And your script is going to be, hey, Mary, we did a deal together a while back, and you were a great assistant. It was one of you. I was on the co-op side of this whole thing, and you really helped so and so out. I'm looking to hire an assistant, and I wanted to pick your brain about what a good assistant is, because I've been having trouble finding a good assistant. And maybe if you can just help me just build what the framework of what that looks like, I could even pay you for your time. So if we can meet for half an hour, and I'd pay you for your half hour time if you just help me build this list. Well, you see where I'm going with this whole thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And then one of the questions so what would what would the hours look like? What would the job description, what would they do? What would be a fair pay? Right? That kind of thing. Right? So I just, hey, I'm not trying to recruit you. No, I'm happy. No, I know you're happy where you're at. No, I know. I just want to help build this list because I thought this might be a good method for me to do to build this list. Right? I've
Yep.
done this before and it worked like a charm. My assistant is from another team that's somewhere I said, what do you think would be fair? And then she went like, 60,000, because I knew she's getting paid 55. So when I came back to her a couple weeks later and I said, I just
Who
want
do
to
you
let you
know?
know what's going on and everything. I said, by the way, with this jobs, I said, I think this is a great job description and good pay. Do you know anybody that might be interested in something like this? Yeah, maybe. Right. And then, of course, when you're sitting there and you're having the conversation, you're going to be as charming as you are now. And you're going to, it's going to be one of the boys. So try to set one of those meetings up and work on the calendar. That's your homework for next week. Right. And then next week, what I really want to dive into is helping you with some lead gen techniques that you may or may not already be doing, but ramping them up. When I say lead gen techniques, that's from our current database. How do we extract more out of our database, especially
Okay.
when the market is tight right now, and our database it's harder to extract from our database. But I'll give you some methods that we've been doing to extract some more leads out of our database at time. All right.
Okay.
All
Yeah, I
sound
know we're
good?
out of town this week. Next week, as we're talking about that, the most common concern that I have right now is the cost of ownership. It's interest rates. And I really wouldn't mind moving, but my mortgage payment doubles and I get no more house. And so then
Yeah.
and so
I just give you a minute answer before we get off. Is make sure you're in communication or you have a partnership with a lender that is going to that's going to do a free refi in the future. So
yeah,
we have lendership partners. So one
marry
of
the
them will
house,
help.
stay at the rate. Yeah, then it's
Yeah. So hey, look, if you're using one of my lenders on this side, you have no worries about when interest rates go down, right? Then obviously the other conversation, what is that prices are going to continue to go up, no matter what you do, no matter how we stop it, right? Even everybody's freaked out over the stock market, right? Last week, so stock market went like this, and then it went like this. Is it going to keep going? No, it's going to go back up again, right? So same thing with housing prices. So, yeah, a house that costs $100,000 more next year or in the next 2 years that you're going to wait, right? Is you're going to lose 100,000 on the house, right? So, um, but I would say the first thing we'll have more conversation about this next week, but right now, make sure you've got that lender partner lined up that is going to do free refis. I think
yeah,
they
I've
got
got
rules.
that times three right now. So
There you go. I think
yeah.
it's every 6 months they're allowed to do or something like that. All right, so I'll put you down for the 23rd, and going forward. Is this a good time for you? 11?
Yeah,
It's 10
yeah,
your
this is
time,
good.
11 my time.
Yep.
So I'll just continue on this way. I don't think I think you've got I think the contract doesn't change or anything. I think it's everything, just billing and everything is good. Just the coaching calls that come through me. I like to use Fathom to record our calls, and I'll send you the coaching notes after this call so you can look them over.
Okay.
All right, and then
Perfect.
we'll see you next week.
All right, sir.
All right. Now, look, the other way I coach too is that you also got me during the week. If you want to pick up the phone and call me, text me, email me, you need something. So it's not just limited to the half hour. So I'm available a lot. So
Okay.
and one of the cool things about, I don't have a giant coaching roster because this is like my fun time I get to have.
Nice.
And so that I am available to my clients. So I'm not, it's not like, Greg is one of 40 people that I coach, and I got to go back and check my notes and think about what happened last week. Like, we're going to be in a partnership together to get this thing growing. So, and if you could think of something that pops up tomorrow, like, hey, what about this? And it may take some time, but all of my clients now, they send me text during the week. Hey, I saw this. What do you think about this? Or I ran across this, and even if it's like, look, hey, it's you and I, because, I'm not pretending that I'm any smarter than you about this business, because you got even more experience than I do. It's just, I'm just your partner to bounce things and ideas off as well. All right.
Perfect.
All right, buddy. We'll see you next week.
All right. All right.
Take care.
Thanks, Al.
Bye.